Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm in your space.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm in your studio.
And I wanted you
and
to
I'm
know.
drinking your beautiful drink that you made for me. So
Well,
I love it.
You know why it tastes so good?
Why? Because it's in the special glasses?
No, because this ice was brought back by JD Vance from Greenland. It's Greenland ice.
It's Greenlandic.
Yeah, this is a Greenland. This is a Greenland.
How much did you have to pay for this?
I had to pay. Well, it was.
The Penguins didn't give it to you.
No,
that's Antarctica.
It was $800, and now it's going to be $1,500 thanks to the.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks to the tariffs.
So
that's it.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is one of those weeks where that was the title of the episode. Parka Poseur. Yeah, but it's just too much other stuff happened that we're not even going to talk about it.
We're not even going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It ended up being our graphic, and we're not. There's no time.
There's no time
because things are just a disaster.
They are. They're pretty bad.
They are so bad. Should we jump into
I think
it?
we should jump into it.
Okay, we're together. Obviously, we're happy to see you. First, tell me how your week was. How was your week?
My week was fine. I just recovered from being like stomach bugged.
You did. So, you got sick.
Yeah,
and then I was like, oh no, I can't come. Yeah.
I don't know if it was food poisoning or stomach flu.
You look good though. So I'm glad you're better.
Thank you.
My week, I'm going to talk about my week in the first segment.
Yeah.
Because
interesting week.
I had some very, very interesting financial conversations with the financial people.
Oh.
Yeah. So let's get into that because I'll just share it with you guys. Hang on. I got to look at me. All right, here I am with the timers. Okay, 8 minutes. So yes, what? Am I pausing?
No.
What?
I want to hear the story, but just to be clear, we're talking about the tariffs. This is a tariff-based conversation.
Oh yeah, this is a tariff-based conversation.
Yeah.
So when the last tariffs happened with the Donald Senior, the grandpa, when grandpa last did his tariffs with Canada, right? It was the first sort of and he was pulling it back and and the markets dipped and then they came kind of back. But when it happened, I think I expressed this on the show. I was enraged. And it's not that I didn't think he was going to do it. I knew he was going to do it because they tell us, they write it down.
Yeah.
They make plans that are 900 pages long. Steve Bannon years ago wrote it all up on a board. There's everything that they have done, everything that they're going to do. They say they're going to do it. So there's time to adjust and to know this is what's going to happen because they're telling us they're going to do it. And while the whole discourse, professional discourse sphere of pundits and analysts and whatever the fuck these people are, all are like, oh no, it's going to be fine. Gaslight us through this whole thing that no, we're going to do it. We're going to do tariffs. He's been saying he was going to do tariffs since when? Since he came back from the Kremlin and said with this Czech
Which time?
Wife, the Ivana.
Oh, so this is back in the
daughter,
day.
Back in the day when it was Russia was still the Soviet Union, and his fresh wife out of the bowels of the KGB Czech intelligence merger was steering him around and leading him over to the Kremlin to meet with the Soviets. And he comes back after that first meeting, and two things were on his
1987, agenda. Yeah.
Was it 87? I think
it was 87 because he ran in 88.
Okay, so two big things on his agenda. Two big things after that fresh trip was we got to get out of NATO, destroy NATO, and tariffs. We need tariffs. And he was a businessman talking about tariffs. Okay. Put a pin in that. So he says he's going to do it. He does it. I'm angry the first time. I'm angry because I didn't prepare my house for that, right? My own housekeeping. And so husband and I were just like, okay, we are not going to let this. We know it's coming. We know he means it. We know what the response is going to be. We all know what happened the last time crazy tariffs like this happened. It did lead into the Great Depression. Now there's a big debate. There wasn't a big debate before, but now there's a big debate about it because nobody wants to say this is taking us into the next Great Depression.
Make America Great Depression again.
Yes. So, husband and I are like, okay, we know that he's saying it was at that time, April 1st, he was going to do this stuff. And that goalpost moved a little bit. But so we get our financial people on the phone and we're like, listen, what is your plan for the tariffs? What is your plan for the tariffs when it comes to us and our portfolio, our money that we have with you? And I realize not everybody has this sort of luxury. We are in it's not a massive position, but we have some savings and we have it with people who are professionals. They know how to deal with this. And so they were kind of like, well, we don't really have a plan. And last time we think it's really cooked in and built in. It was like, okay, we're coming in. We're talking to you. We are going to talk to you. I need to see who you are because I need to check in of whether or not this person and this group, it's a group of people that are in control of our savings, are in a cult. Like, this is crazy. So, and mind you, before we're with a nice group that follows another big group, but they're a smaller group and they're in our area. And so that's lovely because we wanted to have a more intimate, we were in Merrill Lynch for a long, long time, and Merrill Lynch, just in our situation, fucked us. They didn't do a good job because we weren't in there really with them. And so that's also the promise we made. We're not going to do that again. But we were with them for Merrill Lynch forever and ever and ever. And we still have family in there. And some got out and some did not. And we have friends in with Merrill Lynch. And there's all different kinds of groups when you get into these big houses. There's all kinds of, you could be over here with this person in their group and that person in their group and blah, 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 blah. So we're also talking to friends and family going, oh my God, these tariffs are coming. These tariffs are coming. What are you doing? And what are you hearing? Like, what are they saying? What's the guy that we used to be with? What's he saying? Right? Still to the Fed, because we're trying to figure this out. And we got from friends and family a sort of tapestry of the financial world, of their personal wealth advisors saying to them things like, everything in the range from, it's going to be great. Elon's a genius. Don't you worry. Stop panicking. You're so fucking crazy. It's going to be fun. Watch. We're going to be like fully, and I'm talking, it would shock you if you knew how high up these people were in the financial realm. Fully baked into this. I don't know what
hero worship.
Oh my God. We finally have a businessman.
Power worship, we might
Power worship. Money, just salivating, thinking, we're all going to get so rich. You'll see. And literally it seems like, just wait and see. You're going to be so wealthy. You're going to thank me, right? Quote unquote. You're going to be so wealthy. You're going to thank me, is what their advisors are saying back to them and the people controlling in that fund, different groups. Okay, to like, oh, well, it's kind of baked in what we were getting with our new people. So it's baked. We don't know if it's going to be that bad. It's hard to tell, So I go and I sit down with our people, my husband and I, and I'm like, I'm going to look this person in the eye and get a read on this situation because I know what's coming. Damn it. We do this. We're part of this. And I'm like, look, it's not about politics. I don't care what your politics are. I say to the person, I don't care. I don't care. What is the plan? Because the plan of we think it's baked in is not a plan. How exposed are we? What should we do? Like, we need to talk nitty gritty. So anyway, we got completely out.
Yesterday.
And
yesterday?
No. It was Tuesday. We were out by Tuesday. And I was still getting a vibe from our advisor and some of the people in the office of like, you guys might be a little kooky and crazy from California, up here now in New York. And, you might be overreacting, but, let's see, we think it's, but it's hard to tell. Oh my God, I am now what did we want to call it?
Oracle.
The Oracle.
Yeah.
But in the conversation, that we were having with our advisor, I was saying, I was getting back from, really? How do you know this? Right. And I wasn't even conspiratorial. I wasn't anything. I'm like, look, this is either a pump and dump. This is either basic corruption where they know they're going to crash it and then they're going to go and buy it really cheap and run it up again.
Yeah.
Or because he is owned by the Kremlin, because he has come back. He has been saying this about the tariffs for years and years. I'm sure this is my story. Okay. This is my story. I don't know any of this for real, but I'm saying this, right? I'm like, look, this guy, he doesn't know how the real business world works. He only knows how the underworld, the real underworld works. He knows how to blackmail. He knows how to leverage. He knows how to corrupt. That's what he knows how to do. And he's good at it. He learned it from his father. He learned it from Roy Cohn, and they were geniuses. And they know how to launder money, and they know how to do these things. He's lost a lot of money, but he's made a lot of money for a lot of people in the process of those losses. And that was the whole point of the losses. So he's got his racket, and he's been doing his racket for a long time, but he's also a Kremlin stooge. And he came back with these talking points about these tariffs, probably thinking that it sounded great when the Kremlin overlords were explaining to him exactly how he could crash the U.S. economy, whether they articulated that to him or not, because he knows that's the goal or not, is kind of irrelevant. He really thought that this thing, whatever he was sold about tariffs, right? He thinks he's a genius about it. And my story is that the New York elite all laughed at him. What are you talking about tariffs? You went to this, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't. And my story is that created a grievance, right? That these New York money people, that he could never make as much money as them. He could never be legitimate like them. He could not swing around like them. These were the men that everybody admired, and no one admired him. That grievance was all that's also what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a moron and a Kremlin asset with a grievance and a personality disorder going now all to the mattresses in this trade war that he started for no reason other than it's like he has to either do what he's being told, or secondarily, the big secondary game for him is he thinks it's going to work. I believe he thinks this is going to work. And because he was sold on that, and he just wants to prove everybody around, he's going to shove these tariffs on all these. He's going to go and keep going and keep going, because if he just keeps thugging and thugging and thugging like an abuser, that it will yield to him and give him the result he wants. And it's not going to work that way. And I'm very concerned about what happens when it's all crashes, all awful. Everyone turns on him because he has proven that he is the moron that all of New York knew him to be forever. And that the Kremlin all this time has been using him and snickering at how easy this man is to manipulate. What a chump. What a loser he is. I'm concerned about what he's going to do when that reality comes crashing down. Okay, that's my big, long story.
Okay, I like the story. Okay, hit the timer because we got to.
Did you have a response to that story? I know we got to move on.
The response is part of the second thing anyway. So
all right, let's get into your second thing. Go.
No one thinks tariffs is a good idea. Literally no one. They go to try to find, like, no reputable economist thinks this is going to work. They couldn't find anybody. They found like Peter Navarro after they got his ass out of prison, yowling about it. The guy Mark Thiessen at the Washington Post, who will write literally anything. He'll be like, Trump's bowels tasted wonderful today. Oh. He's such a sycophant. It's almost impressive. He makes JD Vance look like a rebel, right? This guy. But like no one thinks this, and more importantly, the markets don't think it. Because what's happened in the last 2 days is that the market has collapsed. It's gone down quite a bit. I think, the Dow went down 2,200 points today. It's only gone down 2,000 points, I think, 4 times ever. So, good job, I guess. It's like one of these Wilt Chamberlain like numbers, it has to be Donald has to be involved because he's so dumb. And, it's not the formula that they were using, which they finally figured out. James Sarawicki at the New Yorker
with this formula with the Greek letters.
But it's not even the Greek letter thing. They took they took the trade deficit and divided it by the whatever the other thing is. And then that was the percentage that Trump thought was a tariff, and that was what the tariff was going to be. That's why Lesotho, which is this tiny little landlocked country around South Africa, has like the highest one. And they're like, what do? We didn't do anything wrong, right? Because he doesn't even know what a tariff is.
No, he doesn't know math.
No. I honestly think...
He doesn't know the difference between subtraction and division.
Yeah. Well, yes.
It's that basic.
It's so dumb. And the people around him let him do it. They let him get away with it. I think in the first term, there was enough people around to not let him get away with it. And now he's going to face consequences because the one thing that drives all of these motherfuckers with the power is money,
Yeah.
That's it. That's the one thing they care about more than anything else.
Mitch McConnell would impeach him over this. He won't impeach over an insurrection,
yeah.
Poop on the walls, violence, threatening to kill Mike Pence, throwing out democracy, subverting an election. No, that's all okay. Blackmailing foreign leaders.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah. Stock market,
get him out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mitch is going to all of a sudden, boom, boom. He's going to wake up. This is
not going to be easy to fix either. No country trusts us anymore.
No.
Even when Trump is gone, it's going to be hard to win back the trust of other countries because we allowed this idiotic, rapist, racist criminal after we got rid of him. We allowed him back, despite staring at reading about Israel for how long and what's happening there when they reinstalled their criminal. We did it anyway.
We did it.
The Germans in 1930, I said this 1,000 times, I'm going to keep saying it, did not have the example of Germany in the 1930s to look back to like we do. And we still put this idiot in there. Okay. Yeah. And they shouldn't trust us, honestly. Now, my question is, where do we go from here? How do we pull out of this? Because the government, this is not a functional thing. We talked about this last week. The coup is on. It already happened. The revolution happened. We lost. This, whatever is happening now, is not real government. This is not constitutional. None of this is functional. He's defying court orders left and right. We'll see. The court said he had to bring that wrongfully sent away person back from El Salvador. We'll see if he does it. My guess is he won't, because everybody's so busy worrying about their 401k to put pressure on him in that way. But I read this thing about what's happening in California that Newsom said, and I don't know how much he meant this, but he basically said California can negotiate our own trade deals, and that my brain lit up. I'm like, that is the way. Okay. California is what, the 6th largest economy in the world?
Yeah, I think 5th now.
Now, and people are so mad about this on X right now. They're like, Logan Act, he's violating the Logan Act. Like Trump does not spend 4 years violating the Logan Act every fucking hour. And like no one's ever been prosecuted for that. And also, he's the governor of a state. He's allowed to lobby for his state. The other thing people are saying, well, it's not constitutional because there's the supremacy clause. And it's like, oh, we're going to talk about the Constitution now? Because, the 14th Amendment says Trump is ineligible, but he's still the president. So if you're going to pick one that you're going to ignore, we can pick one we're also going to ignore. How about that? So if Newsom joins forces with Illinois, because I think Pritzker's on this too. Pritzker's on
amazing.
This, and New York, and do this, that pushes a crisis, okay? That's
states' rights.
Significant amount of the economy. Other states can join in. Then what happens? I don't know. The other thing that's happening that we found out today is that FEMA is not sending money to blue states. They were told to do it. They're not doing it. The judge was like, basically, I'm not a lawyer, but my interpretation was, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You got to send them the money. And they just like, no, we're doing it. They just, only the blue states. So if that keeps going, the thing to do then is for the blue states to be like, we ain't sending you any more money.
Right.
So if it's going to be a trade war, we're going to have it a trade war. You're not going to have any money from California. You're not going to have any money from Oregon. You're not going to have any money from Hawaii or Washington, New York, Illinois, New Jersey, Connecticut. What are you going to do when all the money you have is from Mississippi and Alabama? What are you going to do? I don't know. But this seems like the way, because somebody has to break this
is the
impasse.
way.
Somebody has to break the impasse so that all of these guys leave. They have to. The best case scenario, I think, is that they are made to resign. All of them. Trump, Vance, Musk, the entire cabinet, and Mike Johnson, the speaker, resign also, so that can get unclogged. And then we have some sort of interim.
I'm so sorry. I knew that was coming. You have cats, and I have allergies.
Some sort of interim government, and then we have an election as soon as possible after, and hopefully we can undo the the damage. I'm looking, when I'm reading this stuff, I'm looking for ways out that are not violent and that require the least amount of revolutionary fury.
Listen, if we can negotiate our own trade deals and we have all of the rest of it, we have as pushed down to states, because the Supreme Court has decided, that there is no such thing as a federal government anymore, basically, or United States. It's all the states get to decide.
Right.
Things like whether a woman has control over her own body.
Mm-hmm.
And we have state legislatures, and they know how to. Yeah. Right. It's everything. And then, we have National Guards, and we can join NATO and have NATO forces. I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know. There's a lot of problems, and we have to get out of it. And that's the best way out of it that I've seen. And, I don't know how we can get there. I don't know how serious Newsom is. I don't know if Charlie Kirk pitched him the idea on that stupid podcast he was doing. I
don't know. But I think maybe even just floating the idea of it is enough to sort of send a shockwave in terms of, okay, well, we can't do it. He needs an off-ramp to blame somebody else of why his tariffs don't work.
Been reading The Art of War. Mm-hmm. When the enemy is in retreat, build him a golden bridge.
Build him a golden bridge.
That's it. That's what we have to do. We have to build him a golden bridge. Now, what I really think, about Trump with the tariffs, what I really think.
Yes.
I think he just likes to say it. I think it's not just the word that I use, his affection for the word. It isn't just love. It's more like cherish.
Tariff is a word that Donald likes to say. All the money we will save because Canada will pay. He has got no fucking clue how tariffs work in praxis. He has been too busy forming a new evil axis. He has got no fucking clue it's us who pay new taxes when our trading partners' tariffs cost as much as his tariffs do. And they do. Tariff me. Tariff you. Tariff is a word.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Guilt by
Chuck and Stephanie.
That's my wife, Stephanie.
That's
Good
the
job,
pair.
Yeah,
that's the pair.
That's the pair. All right.
Cheers.
We got to get the pair back.
Oh, God, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get ready for our guest.
You are having the tequila.
I am having the tequila. I am having the tequila.
Okay, our guest is a journalist who covers the extremist Christian beat. She's the author of Power Worshippers, and her excellent new book, which everyone should read, is called Money, Lies, and God. Katherine Stewart. How are you?
Oh, great to be here. Thank you so much. That was hilarious. I loved it.
Sometimes these things are like, I don't know. Like I was working on something totally different,
I
and then
know.
it popped in my head, and I was like, oh God.
I know. And you were like, here's something stupid. He sends it to me. And then before I could even like return, I was like, it's stupid. I don't know. Stephanie had gotten a hold of it.
Yeah.
So that was that.
That was that.
Yeah.
It was all done.
It was all done.
So since last time I saw you, you've never been on the 5-8. You have been on my podcast. After the book came out, I would say there's been countless lies, a lot less money than there was like maybe 3 days ago. And I have not seen God anywhere.
No, where's God?
How are you? How are you feeling about things?
I they told us what they were going to do, and they're doing it. They're smashing the administrative state, the institutions of a functioning democracy, as they said that they would. And a lot of what we're seeing is sort of based in this fantasy. I mean, I call the movement overall a form of reactionary nihilism. And it's absolutely true. We're seeing this play out in real time. I mean, they want to destroy things. They're more motivated by destruction than by the idea that they want to create something new and workable and real and good. And when they do talk about what they want to create, it's based on absolute fantasy, like a fantasy of a kind of imagined past that never existed the way that they think it did, but that also has these kind of reactionary elements. The idea that, all the money and power accrues to those at the very tippy top, which we're seeing Trump and his cronies set up. They want to impoverish everybody else and then hand off key functions that were previously handled by the government, subject to ethics constraints, et cetera, hand them off to his cronies. I mean, the most recent thing I saw today is that Trump wants to put some new company that no one's ever heard of and has no record of doing anything in charge of, I think it's the petroleum reserves.
Yes.
They want to give them over
storage.
Petroleum storage. What is it? $1.8 billion they want to give them to do this? Or is it 2.8? Like some huge amount of money. I mean, this is obviously one of Trump's shambolic buddies, and this is what this leads to. I mean,
right. And the childishness of the fantasy, right? That they're all engaged in is that's such a perfect example is a storage thing, because these are people who just run a real estate storage. It's just storage. It's like public storage. It's like your storage units
for like books and furniture.
It's
not petroleum,
and not the nation's petroleum reserve, but because because they're in the business of storage, and the petroleum reserve is called the petroleum storage. This is a way to do storage.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's like, you can store couches and sofas and desks. Oh, yeah, sure. Just put some petroleum in those rooms. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But, this is sort of what they've been telling us all along. I mean, they've been telling us that they think a democratic political order and its institutions are so bad that they need to be destroyed. They see no real value in the world as it exists. And they sort of, have been running this, idea that government is terrible. It needs to be smashed up. But, here's the thing. We need to be reminded of all the good things that a functioning government can do and all the really bad things. And we're being reminded now of all the bad things that happen when you have a lack of functioning and effective government, or a government that's run totally for the benefit of dear leader and his cronies at the tippy top. So I think that, people who exalt that kind of completely fictitious fantasy and unrealistic fantasy about a world that they think they're going to create, which will never exist, it's sort of a pipe dream. I think these people really count as nihilists. Their vision is really not based in reality. It's retreating into a fantasy that's projected onto the past, really.
I think you're right. It's like the purity test stuff with these ideological people. That's what really I don't like the most about them. It's not the religious stuff. It's the real world doesn't work that way. Like with this DEI business, right? Like, hey, maybe DEI was good, because I think before when we had DEI, the economy didn't fucking crash, did it?
Well, the other thing
yeah.
is they're just using that as an excuse to roll back civil rights. They
Right.
have been very, in Money, Lies, and God, I get very explicit about, I read their stuff. I listen to what they say on their podcasts. I mean, there's a tremendous hostility to gender equality, to racial equality, although they're really kind of clever about the way they cast that. They they always have their representatives and, oh, we're not racist at all. This is all about merit. And yet the whole DEI attack basically allows them to call into question the achievements of any woman or person of color, right? And they could be called a DEI hire. It actually, I spoke to somebody who works in the government who said, these government organizations, they're like as competitive and complicated as any private sector organizations. And there are people who sort of are your allies and people who have it out for you. And we've all been told that we need to snitch on anyone who we think might be using DEI. And she said, it's a real disincentive to hire anybody who is a woman or a person of color, because then you could be accused by someone who might sort of want to, take your job or feels competitive with you at work. You can be accused of using DEI, and then all of a sudden an investigation has to be opened. So it basically is going to be a disincentive for, there's going to be no hiring in government for a while because everybody's getting laid off right now. But for employment, people who are employers to hire the person, if they're the best person of the for the job, if they're a woman or if they're a person of color, because they could be then accused of DEI. I mean, it's really grotesque.
Yeah, I think the phrase that you came up with, reactionary nihilism, I think is really perfect. So talk us through that a little bit. Like, what is it? Who is it? What do they want?
Yeah, what is this? What's to gain? What's the gain here?
Well, okay, let's just start with a few things that we've seen in the past couple of months. I mean, just a few things, right? We've seen an evisceration of the system of justice, including attacks on the independence of the Department of Justice, the power of the judiciary, et cetera. We've seen a brutal and grotesquely inefficient chainsaw attack on vital government services. We've seen an attack on national security, the willful undermining of our most important alliances, and inexplicable support, really, for some of our worst adversaries who just want to see us weak, and totally reckless management of vital features of our national security. Of course, attacks on individual rights, the disappearing of individuals for suspected speech crimes, and most recently, of course, an assault on the world economy. Really, if markets have any predictive value, this is really going to impoverish not just Americans, but also deal a devastating blow to the global economy. So how do we make sense of this, right? So, well, features of this sort of attack on America, let's call it what it is, follow from the nature of the anti-democratic political movement that's been building in this country for decades. So, I mean, in my book, Money, Lies, and God, I call the new right and the religious right, or the Christian nationalist movement, the power couple of American fascism. Were we allowed to use the F word?
Yes.
All the time.
All right, because they're different and distinct. There's some overlap. If you look at a Venn diagram, there's ways in which there's some overlap, and certainly in certain individuals. I would say the religious right has been anti-democratic from the start, but they were, for a long time, kind of more quiet about it. They would say, oh, we just want a seat at the noisy, at the table in the noisy forum of American democracy. We just want our free speech rights. We just care about these culture war issues like abortion and, defense of the nuclear family, et cetera. But if you dig into the key thinkers of the movement, they frankly abhor pluralism, rational thought, equality itself, the idea of a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. They really want a more monarchical form of government. They think the right-thinking elite should be able to impose their values on everybody else. And they have no problem lying to their people spreading lies and disinformation for politics and power and access to money, public money, as well as private source of money. And the new right is, I would say, less explicitly religious than the Christian nationalist movement, but more explicitly anti-democratic. Many of those thinkers, man, they really hate women. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the Claremont
misogynistic, movement.
The feeling is mutual, I think.
Yeah. Well, there are
it started with that. These are men and plenty of women that
a lot of women.
Yeah, that chemically repel other people.
Well, but what I would say is that they're
Their
more
mothers.
explicitly anti-democratic. So there are key thinkers, people like Curtis Yarvin and so many others.
Right.
They say that essentially democracy doesn't work. It's not going to give us the kind of government we need. They abhor equality. They abhor, this is like they're really hysterical about, diversity. And they're less explicitly, religious nationalist, although some of them are more religious nationalists than others and more religious than others. I think about Russell Vogt, director of the Office of Management and Budget, one of the architects of 2025, Project 2025. He identifies himself as a Christian nationalist and has sort of infused Project 2025. He and others have infused Project 2025 with like a lot of religious nationalism. But they, the thing that is super alarming about that movement is that they always talk about smashing the administrative state, right? Which is smashing the institutions of a functioning government. And again, here's where why I call this movement reactionary, these folks reactionary nihilists. Their idea of what they want to create is based on a fantasy of the past. It's really wild. The way I do a lot of my research, I've been writing about this movement for 16 years, and Money, Lies, and God is my third book on the topic. And the way I do a lot of my research is I go to key strategy gatherings and conferences and sort of, I go to very political churches. I go get into groups like Watchmen on the Wall or Faith Wins, these pastor networks where movement leaders are giving these pastors all the tools that they need to sort of turn out their congregations to vote on abortion or whatever. And, I went to, I'd love to tell you about a couple of these. Like, I was just, as I'm speaking, I was thinking about the Florida Homeschool Convention, which is the largest homeschooling convention in the country. Now,
that sounds so awful.
It was fascinating. Look, people homeschool for a whole lot of reasons. We actually homeschooled for a couple of years, not because the public schools were so bad, but for other reasons. There are many people who are, all across the political aisle who homeschool for one reason or another.
I was making fun of Florida more than homeschool.
Homeschooling. Well, it was fascinating because even though the homeschooling world itself is quite diverse, homeschooling activism and the homeschooling movement has been captured by this very hard right. It was almost like going to pray, vote, stand or the road to majority. You had key Republican politicians speaking. There were no Democratic politicians who, as far as I could tell, had been invited to speak. There was tons and tons of religious rhetoric. And it was very interesting. When you go to these conferences, I'm always looking for what's new and what's different. And there was a lot of talk about homesteading, right? You've got to get yourself out of, government schools, and you've got to get yourself out of the grocery store and grow your own food. And I'm thinking, these people have any idea how hard subsistence farming is? But this seems to be what they're aiming for when they're just completely crashing the economy and,
and destroying the FDA and destroying any kind of regulatory agencies around our food and our food supply and destroying farmers. So it's almost also like, let your people know they need to start figuring out how to feed themselves because we're going to fuck up this food supply in this country to a massive degree.
I know. It's just
so it might be even more sinister than it looks like on the surface.
Yeah, it's really a very challenging moment for all of us. The thing I think we need to notice about the governing practice of the current administration is that they're really depending in a fundamental way on a constant war on the truth. And this is where the lies fits in with the title of my new book, Money, Lies, and God. This disinformation, propaganda, just out and out lying to your face is absolutely critical to what we're seeing today. You know, Trump and his people have no concern for the truth. They lie incessantly, they lie shamelessly. And then, incredibly, they base policies on those lies. So, for example, this is a movement that, you know, came to power in part. This administration came to power by claiming the biggest problem in our society is wokeness, or DEI, which basically they're using as an excuse to roll back civil rights and launch attack on free speech, higher education, science research, banning such wokety woke words like pollution and status and woman in federal agencies, and also in, I mean, there are hundreds of words have been banned. It's quite rich, sort of coming from a movement that lectured us for decades about free speech and cancel culture. You know, they manufacture propaganda, like the idea that public schools are these Marxist indoctrination factories that are going to change kids' genders against their will. And they repeat the lie, you know, that Democrats want to, at almost every right-wing conference I go to, at some point you're going to hear, Democrats want to abort babies after they're born. That's infanticide. That doesn't happen. That's like not, there's laws against infanticide everywhere. So that's not happening. So there's also this sort of performative aspect in everything that MAGA does. And certainly the new right advocates, some of their key thinkers advocate for performance and the use of snark, right?
Yeah.
Or not really, to sort of shift the Overton window. And there's
well, when you put the brain of the WWE, the World Wrestling, you know, at the top of the education of our children, that I think we're and the future of our nation, knowledge base, I think you have the sort of complete expression of what you're just you know, describing.
Yeah, there's
it's myth, it's performance, it's just a world, a fantasy world based on lies to make people feel good, to put them into teams. You're going to root for this or not for that, and it's nothing is serious anymore. And while they're all in their arena, you know, celebrating their glory, they have absolutely no idea who's picking their pocket and how much money is actually coming out of their own lives and into the pockets of some already very, very wealthy oligarch.
That's true. You're right. I mean, they're posturing as tough guys with chainsaws, and they're trying to convey by play acting that they're tackling waste and fraud and abuse. At the same time, as you say, they're lining their own pockets with tax subsidies, privileged government contracts. The Wall Street Journal called it the dumbest trade war in history.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear to be motivated by any kind of serious economic analysis or any kind of real policy program. It's really there just to give the dear leader and his cronies an opportunity to declare that they are responsible for the greatest day in American history, a new Declaration of Independence. And what they're really doing is giving us independence from our 401ks. And this really points to the epic levels of corruption that we're already seeing. Yeah. So now, you know, have past American governments involved some degree of collusion between major economic players and the government through, you know, lobbyists, et cetera? Well, of course. But what we're seeing now is really on a totally different order of magnitude. I mean, the president himself is directly trading on the power of the office through meme coins. And he's, you know, think about he's cashing in on a social media company whose only value is really tied to his office. So, you know, think about Musk himself.
Whose board members include Pam Bondi and Kosh Patel, his AG and his FBI head.
Yeah,
I know.
The corruption is off the charts. It just is. And to a degree that journalists don't really know how to cover it and talk about it. And media talking folks don't know how to talk about it. It's just Americans don't even know how to think about it, because it's not that we haven't had corrupt politicians. It's not that. This is corruption taking over our institutions. Our sense of government now is just a mafia state, and it's very difficult for folks to grasp what that means and what kind of impact it's going to have on them. But they're starting to feel it now, and they're starting to see it now. And hopefully we can keep putting, like, thank God for you and the work that you do. And we're so grateful to you. So that work, this work.
I mean, I really do. I think there's an opportunity. I think that, listen, you have to sort of take hope where you find it. But I think that, the crashing of the economy is going to really alarm those sort of very serious people who sort of rationalized their support for Trump because they thought he was going to be good for the economy. I mean, it's really sad, but if they see their own fortunes dwindling, I mean, that might hopefully do something. I also think that this is not what, most Americans want to live in, a society with democratic ideals rather than government that's.
But we have to catch them up real quick. We have to catch them up real quick on who they're actually dealing with, because they've been sold a bag of goods, and get them into action really, really quick. So there is sort of catching up and running, and here's what now we need to do. Here are the actions and the things that we need to do. And I wanted to ask you about that. I had a little thing I wanted to ask you about with the Promise Keepers in terms of radicalization of men, and how I feel like there's a tripling down on radicalizing young men into this sort of white Christian nationalist movement, and groups that hadn't typically been white Christian nationalists before, but were evangelical in their movement and were based around men, have now turned in and morphed into this thing, this machine of radicalizing these men. So I just think it's important to know that's going on. I'd love to hear your thoughts about all that. But in the face of that happening, because never underestimate the bad guy, right? They're gonna keep tripling down and keep building their forces. What are some of the things to do?
There's so much. I mean,
battle this white nationalist movement.
Well, if I may, first of all, there's no substitute for the power of the vote. We have to remember that the country did not go MAGA. Trump, if you look at percentages by which presidents win elections, Trump won by a relatively small margin. He won by a smaller margin in 2024 than Biden won in 2020. What happened was that there was, and if you look at the number of eligible voters, he won about the same, percentage of voters as the last, as he did the first time. But what happened was that there was reduced enthusiasm for voting on the Democratic side. And, we don't have time to get into all the reasons for that, but there is no substitute for turning out the vote. The movement, much of the Christian nationalist movement, functions as a voter turnout machine. And they know if you can, in a country where 40 to 50% of people don't bother to vote, and an additional number have their vote sort of downgraded through, some of the dirty tricks, like, saying you're not allowed to bring water to people. And
you can write $1 million checks, but don't bring a glass of water.
Bring an older person water. But you don't need a majority of the population to win elections. You just need a disproportionately motivated minority. So they're very carefully focused on swinging the right districts and the right states to win elections. And they do that often through faith-based organizations, through churches. There's, they've done it in Florida, and they've really moved populations. If we look between 2016 and 2020, the Latino vote overall shifted 8 to 10 points in favor of Trump. It shifted even further between 2020 and 2024, and a lot of that happened through the targeting of Latino churches, particularly in the sort of independent, charismatic vein. That sort of sector of the country is actually very diverse itself in terms of politics, but it's a large part of it is given over to very hard right politics, and it's bringing new energy to the movement. So turning out the base and also going after low propensity voters is super important. I mean, there's all this sort of talk about, how do we persuade Trump voters? Well, I think you could spend like a decade or more trying to really change the mind of a person who's all down the rabbit hole and not seeing reality, and you wouldn't get anywhere. You might actually your energy might be better spent holding people accountable to vote, volunteering to babysit that lady who's got young kids and can't get away to vote, or driving somebody who might be disabled or a little older to the polls to help them vote, or holding your friends accountable. And also going after people who say their vote doesn't matter and persuading them that it really does. And they have to vote, not just in presidential elections, but in every election cycle, and they need to vote all the way up and down the ballot. Second of all, everybody can get involved in local politics. If you leave it to other people to do school board stuff, guess who shows up? Moms for Liberty. And you guys know who Moms for Liberty is.
Yes, we all know.
Go up and raise hell and claim that, the public school libraries are stuffed with pornography, which they're not. And so it's really important to like really be on top of what's happening in your school board, in your town governance, and in all the sort of, close in your community. Another thing that's really important is we have to stop purity testing one another. Yeah. There's a kind of, on the right, it's a very authoritarian movement. And they say there's no victory without unity, and everybody sort of gets in line. They don't mind buying into a lie or promoting lies, and everybody gets in line. On the sort of moderate liberal left, and now it includes some of the sort of never Trump Republicans in this coalition, it's a big noisy group. We're not all going to get everything we want. And frankly, we shouldn't get everything we want. It's like a big family. This one wants a pony. This one wants to go to France. You're not going to get it. But if you can agree on more than you disagree on, you can work together. If you can agree on some core democratic principles and understand the nature of what you're up against, then you should really be able to work with others and, set aside, say, some of your policy preferences, perhaps in service of a greater coalition. So those are like three things. Oh, and I would say, another thing we really need to do is support pro-democracy organizations. There are a lot of them out there. Everybody's got different interests and skill sets. So do a little bit of research and find an organization that's doing something that you support, and volunteer or give them your, support in other ways. So, and again, remember, there are things we can do as individuals, but there are things we can do better when we join together with others. And, we see that, this election in Wisconsin, where Musk poured tens of millions into this, and they lost, and it was a red district. It's encouraging. There are signs of encouragement. We have elections in less than 2 years. There's no feature of our system as of yet that means that we're not going to have elections. So everybody needs to get ready and turn out for that. And if there's a will to do it, then it can be done.
I applaud all of that, and want to remind everybody that we are not even 3 months into this administration. We're 3 months in, but we're not 3 months complete. Right? It's only April, whatever.
March. Yeah.
Yeah. All of this destruction, all of this has happened in less than 3 full months.
It's not even 100 days. We've got another 2.5 weeks to 100 days.
It's intended to, it's a shock campaign. It's intended to make people, frightened and afraid. And we're seeing some capitulation among some of our institutions, some of these like law firms and universities, et cetera. But here's the thing, I was recently at America Fest. It's Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA annual thing in Phoenix, Arizona. I saw Steve Bannon speak. And, he's, liar and cheat, whatever. But he gets up there with his flak jacket. Meanwhile, he goes back to the billionaire's yacht or whatever.
Right.
With his flak jacket. And he says, he's talking to the people who were hardcore MAGA supporters. He said, when you lost in 2020, you didn't get into bed and suck your thumbs. You decided to get out there and fight. Now, they did things we would never want to do, like spread lies, inspire and organize political violence.
Insurrections.
Insurrection. try to overthrow the government. We not want to do this sort of violent actions and spread lies. But they did things that we should take note of. They turned out their base. They went after low propensity voters. Some guy stood up and talked about how he went after the Amish. He was like, nobody went for them before. So I had this thing where I organized all these people to reach out to the Amish, and we got them. I mean,
well, they don't have them anymore. They're going to lose them because those Amish are farmers, and they just got fucking hit. So, you know, that's the thing about low propensity voters is if you gather them in and then you screw them, they're never coming back to you. So let's hope we're able to convert some of those folks because they knew they didn't vote because they knew they didn't believe in the system. They got talked into it and then they got screwed.
The challenge here is that people often vote on identity and not policy. And once you've sort of drawn them into a sort of identity of religious nationalism, us versus them, the pure versus the impure, it's hard to draw them out. But, you know, still, it's worth having the conversations, and it's really vital to turn out the base. Again, Harris lost because there was less enthusiasm for turnout on the Democratic side of the political aisle. And, you know, we could have a whole other section on that. I believe that there are sort of information operations that were intended to depress enthusiasm or split the vote. That's, you know, divide and conquer. It's the oldest game in the book. I think we have to also recognize that often politics is just basic chess, you know, and understand that, you know, the other side isn't just winning through persuasion. They're winning through fostering voter apathy on the other side of the political aisle. Years ago, I mean, I have this quote in my previous book, The Power Worshippers. There was this guy named Bill Dallas. He was the head of an organization called United in Purpose that played a really critical role in data operations, turning out the vote. And he said, we have 200 million voter files in our database. We know what makes someone turn out to vote, and we know what makes them stay home. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said, we know it gets people to vote. And they were actually like pushing messages into people's like Facebook feeds and social media. But they were also, you know, he was suggesting that they were also pushing messaging that was intended to depress enthusiasm for voting on the other side of the political aisle.
I believe it. I believe it. Before we go to the fourth topic, I want to ask you one more question because I think it's important. When we spoke last time, you were talking about the fissures that might develop between, because your book, Money Lies in God, one of the things you do in the book really well is sort of describe and break down who all the, you know, the types of people are that are involved with this movement and how they kind of fit together.
Yeah.
And one of the things to do is to break that union apart, you know, divide and conquer, as you said. Have you seen in the last 78 days, or even in the last 2 days?
In the last 2 days,
have you seen any fissures?
The last 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the fissures within the, you know, where are we breaking around the money?
Well, I think the greatest opportunity for fissures is between the agenda of the funders of the movement and the agenda of the rank and file, or I call.
And the funders are the big funders. We got Leonard Leo.
Well, I want to name funders. So we're talking about the Corkerys, Sean Filer, Barry Side, Jeff Yass. We're talking about some of those tech bros, right? Like Musk and Andreessen. We're looking at people like the Betsy, like members of the Betsy DeVos Prince family juggernaut. We're looking at energy billionaires like Tim Dunn and the Wilkes brothers. Here's the interesting thing about.
What about my neighbor, Harlan Crow?
Indeed. Is he really your neighbor?
He's my neighbor.
That's wild.
Yeah.
We went up there.
So
he came up. We went tromping in.
Here's the interesting thing about the funders. Religiously, they're really all over the place. Some of them are evangelical, some are Protestant, some are Catholic, some are Jewish, and some are, frankly, atheistic. And religiously, they're, you know, all over the place, but they're really united in their conviction that they need to destroy liberalism and liberal democracy, and they're investing a part of their fortunes in these anti-democratic projects. And their agenda is really, low taxes or no taxes for the rich. They want privileged contracts from the government for their monopolistic businesses.
They want to be oligarchs. Yeah.
They want to be oligarchs. It's not just money that they're after. I think there's a psychological aspect to it because they don't really need the money. I think there's almost like a justification for their vast fortunes. It's the unearned wealth that they have. I think that there's a sense in which they understand that the vast concentration of wealth at the super tippy top of the economic ladder is really impoverishing most Americans. I mean, this is a movement that draws on some legitimate grievances. People are finding it harder to make a living. They look at their parents' lives and their lives. They say, why is it so much harder? We got 2 parents and 4 jobs, and we still can't afford dignity for our families. And the movement is very good at taking those grievances and then finding, a scapegoat. Like if you can blame that all on a trans woman, that's your problem, right? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, these sort of massive distractions that take away from the sort of bread and butter issues. But it's all in the service of these billionaires. How are these billionaires going to get, a lot of the people I feature in my books to vote a certain way? Well, you got to make them believe that, in this sort of culture war stuff, that's how they do it. But
Cynical sadism.
it's cynical sadism. But I think a lot of it comes from this sort of psychological, they have this an injury to their narcissism when they hear their critics say, you should be paying more taxes and maybe you should pay your workers more so they don't have to go to the government to get their health care. What Amazon does, with these warehouse workers. And I don't know if you guys have read that sort of wonderful book about these older people who, go work as seasonal workers at Amazon and then they hurt their backs and they're told to just it's just horrifying. The abuse of the American workforce is pretty appalling. So
economic strikes on these guys would work. An economic strike against Amazon and a building up to that would actually.
I just think that there's an opportunity with really sort of good messaging. We need, charismatic leadership, obviously. We have an opportunity to say to people as they're hurting, as they lose their jobs, as their cost of groceries is getting unaffordable, as they can no longer eat eggs, as their cost of housing is completely out of control, as their public school shutters. We have the opportunity to say, here are the people who are doing this to you, right? And these are the people fighting for you.
Yeah,
okay, let's do it.
Are you?
I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in.
I'm in.
We can.
I'm in because our hospital. We're rural, and our hospital might even close if they really do what they're threatening to do with Medicaid. Hospitals are going down.
That leads to the next thing. Are you okay on time, or do you have to go?
I'm good on time. Yeah.
Okay, good. It's 9:06. Yeah. All right, here we go. Our next segment, we put a timer on.
We swear this one will be 8 minutes.
This will be 8 minutes. Okay.
We were talking about hospitals, and that's where we're at now. We've got Kennedy is just a crazy. He's got the brain worm, and he's in charge of our health services. Katherine Eban at Vanity Fair had a great story this week about how Doge is going about cutting people who work at these places. And again, it's so fucking stupid.
Yes.
They have no idea how anything works.
It's just play. It's performance. It's play. We're playing exactly.
It's Jenga is what it is. And you pull the block and then eventually it craps down. That one of the people that got laid off is Marks, who was I think Peter is his first name, is this infectious disease guy who just did all this stuff. And he leaves saying, well, I hope we can get back to science someday.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we're not going to have the FDA regulations on things. I mean, think of all the things that you consume during the course of a day, which is medications and vitamins and, Tylenol and food. And you go to what's going to happen if there's a problem at one of these places?
Breathing the air. Yeah.
There's no more. There's not going to be any more inspect. It's really setting us up for a catastrophe, health wise.
Yeah.
And then, as if things couldn't get worse, right? The guy who's now in charge of overseeing our Medicare and Medicaid system is this guy on the right.
Yeah, there he is, our Turkish delegate here.
Yeah, that's Mehmet Oz.
This is a real photo
from 6 weeks ago. I apologize.
I need to expunge that picture from my I just wish.
This is from this administration from this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is Mehmet Oz. That's RFK, crazy, steroided out or something.
And
Russell Brand, who just tell us what happened with Russell Brand.
Russell Brand. I'm going to take that down. I apologize.
Yeah.
The Russell Brand just got hit with rape and sexual assault charges.
Of course.
So. Which means, I suppose, that he's going to be living with Andrew Tate in Florida any day.
I think they're all going to get, it wasn't from our government, was it? No.
No. UK. So, but the point here is that, those guys are now in charge of our health services. And Oz is not he refused to, he has his citizenship with Turkey, which is fine, but he's very close to Erdogan. It's not great.
I thought he was already outed as taking money from them and not filing FARA.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's sketchy at best. I mean, I don't know whose side he's on, and I don't know what he's going to do with this stuff. I mean, at least he's a doctor, I guess. That's a good thing, But RFK is a doctor. I don't know what qualification he has to do anything. So
zero.
It's just, and then right now, the measles outbreak in Texas keeps increasing. It's now almost 500 people that have measles. That's just going to keep spreading.
Listen, I had somebody, a friend was we were talking. This was right at, a couple months ago of who knows what was getting torn apart. And she was saying how this was just going to be, I was like, well, I think everybody should be concerned about RFK Jr. Getting confirmed. It was about these confirmations. And she's like, well, I think we have bigger things. I was like, right now, just wait. Yeah. Just wait. You start attacking the health of an entire nation of people, and those dominoes will go down, and it will be devastating. All we have is our health. That's all we've got.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day. So when that is, these people are, it is about killing us.
Well,
I don't know what else you can call it.
I don't think it's deliberately, intended to kill us. I just think
I do.
I do. But anyway, what were you going to say?
What were you going to say?
Well, I just think that really it's part of a far-reaching, deliberate assault on science itself, and which is slightly different. And we have to remember that Trump rose to power with, the help of a movement that has denied science for a very long time. They bash government expertise and prioritize professional loyalty over any kind of expertise. They've long seen scientific truths as their enemy, and that's sort of historic. I mean, in the 19th century, you had these pro-slavery theologians like Robert Louis Dabney attacking the physical sciences as theories of unbelief. This sort of idea that, truths grounded in rational thought, scientific truths are the enemy, because an educated public and the principles of rationality are the enemy of autocracy.
Yeah.
I mean, in Magaland today, climate denialism is totally mainstream. The federal government has banned words like clean energy, climate science, environmental quality, pollution is banned. You can't use it. I mean, some of these leaders of the movement, there's this organization called the Cornwall Alliance for the Stewardship of Creation. And it's got a whole bunch of very powerful signatories, leaders of the religious right. And they've denounced environmental science as a cult of the green dragon, right? This idea that the green dragon meaning green
movement, yeah,
right. So they basically say that environmentalism is a false theology, and this is the idea that education is the enemy. It's the enemy of corruption. It's the enemy of autocracy. So I think that that's sort of behind some of these attacks on science and expertise.
I agree. I was saying to Greg, we had an early dinner because I got here and we went and had some dinner and then took our naps because it was a long trip. But we're just sitting there contemplating, thinking about this idea that not idea, just this fact in terms of mankind, our knowledge right now, how accessible information is, the knowledge base as a whole in terms of where man has come, how far we've come, how much we know, the degree of expertise and the fungibility of that expertise in terms of how it keeps replicating itself and then building and becoming even more specific for individuals, from individuals to groups to whole bodies of information that have their as a workforce, even the knowledge underneath them and the degree of precise knowledge in terms of applying it and then sharing it with others and advancing the human condition. There's never been a time in history like this. And some of that is just time, right? The way that time works is we're constantly building on what we've known before and testing it and moving and shaping everything. So to be at this point in human history when it comes to knowledge and expertise, and to willfully have chosen to elect this moron and his moronic horde. These people are so dumb.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think
they're
a lot of the
corrupt.
people,
They're corrupt.
No.
I will say that.
I
I will
she
say
means
that.
a lot of
She
time.
I'm saying
You're saying the
they're all
people
dumb.
in government.
I'm
That's
talking
what
about
she
the
means.
people in government. I'm talking about the
Not-
woman
Not the voters. She
the
means the
woman
people.
who
I mean,
stands up
a lot of the
as
voters
his
are just
press secretary. Donald himself, Rudy Giuliani, ringing the bell on the day that the stock market goes down. This horde of ignorance, having Laura Loomer come into the Oval Office and that paragon of knowledge, right? Deciding to get rid of 4-star intelligence officers.
Head of the NSA.
Head of the NSA. This time, these people, they're not just corrupt, we have inflicted on ourselves. They are dumb.
Well, I think, listen, a disinformed public is easier to control. I mean, again, they understand very simply that
We've
truth is
done
there.
this to ourselves, is my
Right.
point. We have inflicted this injury on ourselves. And yes,
Well,
there's been radicalization.
those who voted
Yes,
for
there's
him
been
did.
lies and disinformation. But
Okay.
this man is back in power at a point in human history where we have more knowledge and expertise available to all of us than ever before. That contrast to me is mind-blowing.
It's also
mind-blowing.
It's also a point in history where exploring other ideas doesn't automatically get you burned at the stake.
Mhm.
Like, for all the
That's
talk about free
true.
speech
Right now,
is
at
there.
the moment.
Right, at the moment.
Well,
But
okay,
even-
you guys, this is the time that I actually have to go.
No, I was
Yeah,
going to say
yeah.
you've been a trooper with us.
It's been really, no, it's been such a pleasure to be with you guys. And I saw one of the comments. I mean, amazing comments. I saw bring in the penguins. Can we just bring the penguins in?
The poor penguin.
That would be good.
So-
Again, your book is called Money, Lies, and God, and it's really good, and everybody should read it because it's you just do a really good job explaining all this stuff. So
Thank you
so much.
Really
Have a good
good.
rest of
Thank
your
you,
weekend.
Katherine Stewart. Oh, she's great.
She's great.
She's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh, God.
getting back, I thought of that too. Like in the past, you just get, you're flirting around with some idea you're a heretic, and they just kill you. That doesn't happen now. It might happen 6 months from now, but not now.
Yes, but that's in the past. I'm just talking about
Well, but it's both things. Yeah.
where we could be,
Yeah.
and yet where we are.
Mm-hmm.
The embrace of ignorance.
Yeah.
And the apathy towards knowledge this sort of dismissal of it. You know, I know some people who voted for him. I couldn't believe it this second time around. And it was like, well, how could you? And these were so, it's like, yeah, well, we just,
he's not really going to do the tariffs.
Not only is he not really going to do the tariffs, it's yeah, but it's not our alarm about this man and what they wrote down, you know, in Project 2025, the alarm around all of that being dismissed and him being then elected and put into power. That process at this time in mankind, where we have 1930s Germany to look back at, just to circle back around to what we said at the top of the show.
Sick of reading about it.
Is it's just jarring.
Yeah.
It's jarring.
It is.
And I think important to mark. We need to mark the fact that we have chosen to be, that ignorance became a choice.
Yeah.
I don't know that ignorance was ever a choice up until this point in time. Now and that's the difference.
It's a choice and it's a luxury that these people have.
Yeah, the rest of us, they've chosen it as their luxury.
It's almost it's sort of like parallel or analogous to being anti-vax. Like, you know, they could be ignorant because there's enough people who are not ignorant around that will save them when the time comes.
Right.
And will protect them from getting infected.
Right.
With the whatever the consequences are of the action.
Well, they just run to a place where there's you know.
Yeah.
There's people who actually have the vaccine. So if they have the protection, they don't have to have the vaccines because they have the protection of enough people who have the immunity that they're not going to get sick.
Yeah.
And can't connect those two dots.
Do we have any announcements?
I mean, we have our announcement that we've been making.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a show.
We have a new show.
A new show.
We have a new show coming on April 16th, which is Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's called The 5-8.5, and it is going to be hosted by Nadine Smith and Lisa Graves, and it's going to be fantastic. And just to be clear, because I don't think we were perfectly clear last time, we're not on the new show.
We're not on the new
it's
show.
Their show.
We might be on it.
The new show,
we might be on it as a guest or to pop in and say stuff, but this is their show.
Yep.
And they're gonna do their thing with it, and we get to finally
watch it.
Yeah.
And
I'm very excited.
It's very exciting.
We will have a common theme song. I want to shout out to Matt Fossa this week.
Yeah.
Matt came through right off the bat. Thank you, Matt Fossa. And took our theme song and delivered a version of it for the new show, 5-8.5 on Wednesdays at the same time on the same YouTube channel.
Yes.
You'll just tune in and you'll see those two incredibly brilliant women.
Yes. It's going to be great.
So we're thrilled for it, and hear the theme song, and then of course there'll be some animation, and
it's going to be great too.
It's going to be great. It'll be like it'll be all very familiar and comfortable, and then it will be its own thing, and so that'll be great.
Yeah, I think it's going to be wonderful.
So that launches on April 16th, everybody, the day after tax day. Not that any of it, I'm encouraging anybody to pay their taxes.
I filed an extension, man.
Extension.
There might be are there going to be employees in the IRS by October?
It's very difficult to come with. By the way, I want to say as a side note, this is the heaviest. I work out all the time. These glasses are so heavy. I've seen them before. I've had them before at other people's homes, but wow, I was trying not to make a big noise putting that down.
Harder to tip over though. Then.
Oh God, I'm glad I'm here.
So the other announcement is that I mean, just as a general announcement, tomorrow is these hands-off protests.
Hands-off protests, April 5th. Fuck. Sorry. I made that microphone go down. Sorry, everybody.
It's okay.
Okay.
If you check the website, if you just, put in the website and go look on Google, you could find a place near you. And I was impressed by how many cities, even small ones, have gatherings that are happening. And I hope that what happens tomorrow is that there's going to be a big show of force in terms of people, like the number of people exercising right now, hanging out and showing up for democracy, and to say these people suck and we want them gone. and we want hands off all of this stuff. These take your short fingers and your small hands and go elsewhere, Mr. Trump.
Go elsewhere.
Go elsewhere.
Yeah, hands off our democracy. So that we'll be together.
There might be something tomorrow.
There might be something tomorrow. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm still not a fan of everybody's saying don't bring phones, but you want to bring a phone.
Everything, you can't take the train without the phone. That's where the ticket is. You can't.
Oh
everything's
God.
like you can't ride the subway without the. You just need your phone.
I don't know.
What?
I'm scared.
We'll be fine.
Okay.
We'll be fine. Famous last words. Well, don't worry. Don't worry. We're going to be rich beyond our wildest dreams.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You're panicking
It's warmer.
so much.
It's warmer in El Salvador.
It's warmer. It'll be nice.
It would
there.
suck to get sent to El Salvador because we would miss the White Lotus finale.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
We thought about doing an after hours. Do you still want to do it? I can still do it.
We'll do a short. All we're going to talk about is the White Lotus.
Okay, so that's our last announcement. Is that we're going to talk about the White Lotus. We're going to have an after hours.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
We are? Okay, great.
That's
we're
good.
doing it, spontaneously deciding right now in the moment that we're actually going to do it.
So it's going to pop up on the YouTube page eventually.
Yeah.
Because I didn't create
we didn't create the link yet, but it'll pop up on the YouTube page. So for everybody who is a subscriber that also joins, who's a member, so you have to join. We make it really easy to join. So hit the subscriber, hit the like, always. But if you have not joined yet, hit join. You'll see that choice, join. And it'll prompt you for like a $1.99, just whatever membership you can afford. Come on in, and then we do this sort of extra content for folks that are our members. And also, if you just want to support us, because that's the whole point of it, is just to support us. We are doing this all on our shoestrings.
We are doing it all on the shoestrings.
We're doing it all on the shoestrings, including adding a new show. I can't wait for this new show. I'm so excited about this new show. I'm
excited for the new show too.
Yeah, we know more obviously than we're sharing, and it's got my excitement level up. Yeah,
it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So we have a fifth topic. I think we should just go through it real quick.
Real quick. Okay.
Cory Booker.
Oh my God, Cory Booker.
Yeah, that was great.
What
were your thoughts?
So great. I was inspired. And I don't want to discount how important inspiration is.
Yeah.
It's important to see somebody stand up and use whatever power and position they have to do something historic in this moment in order to bring attention and focus in an area where leadership has been absent. We haven't had leadership from the Senate. We haven't.
Not the leadership people, you mean?
The leadership people have not been leading.
Yeah. Or they were leading badly.
Leading badly, whether in majority, as they had for quite a long time, or in minority now. And so it was, we only see one of these things every once in a while. And this was substantive. I don't count the Ted Cruz thing, because that was just him going up and being weird, and doing stupid things and being performative. This was substantive. And and as much as the Strom Thurmond, what he was, doing a longer filibuster than that, which such oh my God, what an important thing for Cory Booker to do.
Yeah.
That was it for all the things that are against democracy at that time. He was doing something for his cause, right? For what he found important. So to have Cory stand up and do something for the cause of preserving democracy and calling out the moment that we're in and bringing focus to it. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I did, except when I got really angry.
I know you did.
So here this man put himself out there to sort of say and plan and prepared and had his team prepare the notebooks, and he consulted with the doctor to how can I do this for my body? When do I stop drinking? How do I handle so he could go for it. in this moment and knew what he wanted to say clearly, had it prepared for the moment that he actually broke the record, Strom Thurmond's record, the segregationist, that horrible fuckwad. And here he was setting the new historical moment for the hope for the future, for democracy, and doing it with dignity and doing it with substance and doing it, just everything about it was so well done. And here he was at his moment, knowing and getting the alert, knowing you've done it. He was telling us all along, I'm watching, I'm seeing the clock, I'm seeing where I'm at, because he had something prepared. And as soon as he went over the threshold and he was ready to do the pentultimate thing that he and his team had worked on, and that he had been standing up there and putting himself on the line for 25 hours to build to this moment, to where he could say what he really wanted to say for this moment, Chuck Schumer snatched it from him. Chuck Schumer made that about Chuck Schumer.
He wasn't even there.
He was like, I have a question. I got a question for you. He's all excited. Chuck Schumer was all excited. And Cory Booker said, you know what? I don't normally say no to you, but I'm saying no to you now, because he knew he was being polite. He was being gracious, but he knew what he was prepared to do. He had his moment. And Chuck Schumer ignored him saying no. Cory Booker said, no, I'm not going to take your question. Love ya, but I'm doing something here. I'm not taking your question right now because I know what moment this is. And Chuck Schumer says, my question is, do you know what moment it is? You've just broken the record. And then gets everybody to stand up and clap and applaud. And Cory was gracious, and that was amazing. And he got that applause and that acknowledgement. Fuck you, Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
If we don't get rid of this man in this next election cycle, we need to, New Yorkers need to
he's gone.
Get rid of him.
No, he's gone. AOC is gonna primary him, and he's gonna be gone.
I hope she does.
They did a poll. Nobody wants him now. He's
was egregious and disgusting and pure Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
It's all about me defining your moment for you.
It also made it more cheesy.
Oh, God.
He was in the middle of saying something when Chuck.
He was in the middle
He was sort of building to something,
yes.
And then he just sort of interrupted it. And it was like, it felt to me, because that was the night that I slept weird. I was sick. I was up in the middle of the night. Yeah. So I kept checking in on it to see, what was happening with it. Was it still going? And he's still going. Cory's still going. And it felt like a thing from a movie.
Yeah.
We were like, what's going on? We have to get to the TV. Cory Booker's still talking. And it was. And in the movie,
Mr.
you're like,
Smith goes to Washington.
Right. It was like that level of thing.
It was incredible.
When he did go past the mark, I was teary. It was great.
Yes.
And then again, this guy with can't fucking read the room at all. Just useless. Go away. Please go away. Just retire.
Go away, Chuck Schumer.
We can retire right now.
Oh.
Hochul will put AOC in there, and it'll be much better. Everybody will be happy.
Oh my God.
It'll be a good thing. Murphy was there too. He was there all night, staying up with him, and I just wanted. He's been really great. I think in terms of we've bashed a lot of the Democrats certainly on this show.
Yeah.
For being useless, but he's been pretty great, I think.
Yeah, there've been some great ones.
This whole thing.
For
so
sure.
I want to shout him out as well. So what else do I have to say is that she was talking about nihilism, right? Which maybe it is nihilism. I say nihilism because that's how I say
nihilism.
And you know why? Because that's how Walter pronounces it in The Big Lebowski. But I have no idea.
Is that why we say that?
Yeah.
I bet it is.
Yeah. And
we're following Walter's lead.
Nihilism is also Russian. I'm just saying.
It is.
It did originate in Russia.
Yes, it did.
So it's now 9:30-ish. So let's say at 9:45 we'll be back.
Okay. 9:45, everybody.
9:45.
We're gonna talk White Lotus, and that's it.
Yeah, we're gonna talk White Lotus, and that's it. And,
okay. Because we haven't had a chance to really talk about it.
We haven't.
Because every time I've talked to you, we've gotten into it. My husband has also been there because he's always there, and he hadn't finished the last episode prior, so we couldn't talk about it.
So there may be spoilers, but That's it. And I guess, when it comes to White Lotus.
Oh God, we're gonna get through this.